Yo, what's up, guys? Mistwater here. Okay, so I'm going to be talking about Resto Druid or Shadowlands. Um, I'm pretty excited about a lot of the changes. Spoiler alert, guys. So far, Resto is going to look like it's going to be my main. So I don't know if doing the video I'm most excited about first is a good idea, but here we go. So I'm really excited about almost everything. I like the Covenant abilities. I like a lot of the changes. Um, let's go ahead and get into what those changes are and why I think Resto Druid is going to be my go-to. Um, First of all, obviously Mythic Plus is going to be a huge part of the game, right? And I'm sure you're sick to death of hearing Resto Druids being the best in Mythic Plus. Uh, I never really went Druid because I liked the utility or damage. I always just liked the fact that they have the best single target healing. Like when you're healing a tank as a Resto Druid, it feels good. And in Shadowlands, as a Resto Druid, it's gonna feel even better. I don't know why they're doubling down on this, but they're really all inning on single target healing with Resto Druid, and whatever, I'm about it. It's gonna be fun. So this is gonna be just Resto Druid, guys. So we're gonna go over all the changes. So for one, everybody gets Spark Skin, but it only lasts 8 seconds now. You can use it when you're sort of CC'd. Effervescence had its mana cost reduced. Um, so this is good. Okay, so random tangent, guys. I don't know if you watched the previous video, but there is a thing called the Healing Core passive. It's like a tuning knob, so to speak, that where our spells just heal for more or heal for less, depending on how Blizzard sees fit. As far as I know, Druid still has that, but we're gonna have to keep watch on that into the future, because that's what's gonna convolute everything a lot. And so I have to assume that if they removed Resto Shaman's core passive and sort of just kind of rechange their spell power coefficients, that we're gonna get the same treatment for all the other healers. So we'll just have to keep track of that. But for right now, Resto Druid still has that in place. So, okay, they're changing the way Innervate works. Innervate, if you put it on somebody else, like another friendly healer, you will get the effect for 50% effectiveness. Now, as a very selfish individual, I kind of don't like this because this means if you don't put it on somebody else, you're kind of throwing. Um, but if there's two Resto Druids, then you can just innervate each other. And so it's kind of actually a buff if you get innervated, obviously. Um, and then you'll get your own innervates 50% effectiveness. So 50% reduced mana cost is pretty solid. You could probably still play around the same way you do with the regular innervate. So it's pretty good. I mean that's just a straight buff, right? Um, Iron Bark. So they're kind of changing how Iron Bark works. Um, Iron Bark is going to have the Stone Bark talent from before. So here's what we can do. We can pull up another talent tree here. Okay. So here's the BFA version of the Druid talent tree. And I like how it went to Priest. Okay. What kind of coding is that? Okay, so this is the BFA right here. So here's Stonebark. So normally Stonebark would reduce the cooldown of Ironbark and add a 20% increased healing to your healing over time effects on the target while it's active. They're baking Stonebark into Ironbark, right? But they're increasing the cooldown of Ironbark to 1.5 minutes. So kind of interesting, but that's what they're doing. So I kind of actually like that, right? Now you have a target point and click 20% wall, 12 seconds. Sure, the cooldown got increased, but you automatically have the stone bark talent, so that's pretty cool. You can use it as a HPS increase on the target as well as obviously reducing the damage they take by 20%. So I would definitely use Iron Bark right before I do a big spam, big skeleton target healing on them. Maybe right before a Swift Mend would be probably pretty good. Um, let's see. So Life Bloom, it has its mana cost reduced a fair amount. Um, just so you guys know, obviously these numbers are incorrect. Anytime you see a number on like Wowhead when it's talking about mana cost, it's not factoring the fact that healers have a far larger mana pool, 5 times more mana pool than any other spec. So you have to divide these numbers by 5, right? So the real number so if it's 11.2%, right, from before, divided by 5, that's 2.2% mana. So 8% obviously becomes like 1 point something. So either way, good mana cost reduction on Life Bloom. We have Nature Swiftness now. So you can use this on Regrowth, Rebirth, or Entangling Roots. It's instant, free, so you can use it while moving. Free is nice. Castable in all forms, okay? And heals for an additional 100%. So I think this is going to be like a really good thing to use if like you have to go cat form to dodge an ability or bear form to survive a mechanic. You can still get out a Nature Swiftness Regrowth on somebody in the raid, right? Um, or hell, you go bear form to live through something and then regrowth yourself. I don't know, right? Whatever. Anyways, it's gonna hit hard and it's gonna be free, and you can use it every minute. I think that's huge. A free regrowth every minute is massive, and it's gonna heal for twice as much, right? So it's kind of like 2 regrowths every minute. It's very good. Um, Proud. I don't think that does it too. Oh yeah, here's okay. So regrowth got an extra passive. So this is what I was talking about. How they said they were basically how they were increasing single target healing. This is a big part of that. So Rego's initial heal is increased by 40% when it crits a target. Or sorry, I fucked that all up. Rego's initial heal has a 40% increased chance to crit if the target already has regrowth. Okay, so now you are incentivized to not spread the hot, but instead really focus on healing targets that already have regrowth. 40% is not a low number. That's a big number. And obviously, you got to think about Resto Druid's mastery, right? Their mastery has always been, in my opinion, the strongest part of the kit. Really taking advantage of that mastery is how a good Resto Druid wins the healing meters, in my opinion. And it really plays in their core strength, which is single target healing, right? You combined a cultivation hot with a rejuve hot with a regrowth hot into the next regrowth, right? So you rejuve, regrowth, and then regrowth them again. That third regrowth is going to clap. It's going to do so much. And I think that's going to be kind of the rotation, in my opinion. I think you're going to rejuve a target, then double regrowth them or something. But we'll have to speculate later on. Rejuve has its mana cost slightly increased. Not the end of the world. It's a very small amount, but still kind of annoying. Um, okay, everybody has Wrath now. Doesn't really matter. A lot of these are level adjustments. They're really trying to change the leveling experience. Also, you'll notice that there's ranks again. See rank 2. So what they're doing is they're changing the way that as you level up, you're gonna get ranks. Most spells only have like 2 or 3 ranks. So um, basically, they just give you nerf version of the spells at the start of the game, and as you level up, you gain the ranks back, which is smart, honestly, because you get the power. You get that feeling. And it also makes leveling experience so much better in lieu of not having talents, right? I'd say this is the most massive change to the rest of the Druid class right here, Swiftman. Now we obviously had Swiftman before, but there's some key differences. So first of all, the mana cost is almost cut in half. The cooldown is almost cut in half. The healing, and I don't know, I think maybe it did this much before, but the way it works is it consumes a hot. So in this order, regrowth, it'll attempt to consume a regrowth, and then if there isn't one, then it goes wall growth. If there isn't one, then it consumes a rejuve, and then it heals for 240% spell power. This is a very powerful heal. I haven't been able to obviously test this because I don't have alpha access, but what I'm curious about is if the removal of this hot will count against you for the purpose of mastery. So, like, I wonder, does it do the healing and then removes the hot? Or does it remove the hot, then calculate how many hots you have on for mastery, then heal? Because that would be unfortunate if it was the latter, right? But regardless, it's a very powerful heal for a very small amount of mana on a pretty decent short cooldown. So this is just a single target HBS increase on top of a massive single target HBS increase that was regrowth spamming a fully hotted up tank, right? So also, since you're going to constantly be reapplying regrowths, it's not the end of the world if it consumes a regrowth hot, right? Sure, if you Swiftman, your next regrowth will be a little bit weaker, right? But hey, it's not the end of the world. Um, okay. Tranquility received a 10% buff, so it might be decently strong again. Tranquility was kind of lackluster in BFA, in my opinion. So this might maybe put it in line of being like a pretty solid healing cooldown. Um, That's just giving back what you lost from the rank 1. Okay, so Wild Growth got its mana cost reduced quite a bit, which is nice. A fair chunk too, so Wild Growth might actually be more usable, I think, now. It got its healing slightly reduced, but the mana cost reduction far outweighs the healing reduction. And honestly, I would say the biggest boon to Wild Growth was it was just another hot for your mastery, right? Chasing all those hots and healing the people who already had Wild Growth, and slamming some big regrowths down was, in my opinion, how you really took advantage of it. So this is going to be very good for 5-manning, in my opinion. Okay, talents. Okay, so they changed the talents a little bit. I think this is the beta one. So we're gonna get to the next biggest change right now, I think. Or maybe we'll just keep reading down here. So they changed the bonuses that you get from Balance, Feral, and Guardian Affinity a little bit, but ultimately they're kind of the same. I'll be honest. One just gives you movement speed. It's the same bullshit, right? It's range, and then the tanky one's just DR. The tanky one also gives you extra charges of Frenzied Regen, so I guess that's kind of nice. Here's the big one. So Nourish as a talent. It's a new talent on row 1, replaces Prosperity. This is like the thing I'm most excited about, and I really hope it works. Heal a friendly target for 135%, so it's an okay amount. Receives triple bonus from Mastery Harmony. Okay? It will, after do the math, its mana cost will be about 3%, which is a bit pricey. Okay, so it's not the cheapest spell, but it's cheaper still than like Flash Heal from like a priest or something, right? So, and now it does the same base amount as a Flash Heal, but it has triple mastery, right? Scaling. So this is insane if you can combine this with somebody. If you're healing like the tank, honestly, Nourish is 100%. You take Nourish, guys, and you are a tank healer. Because look, you have to give up one of these other things. And if you're taking Nourish, I mean, you're pretty much saying like, I don't spam regrowths anymore. I spam Nourish, right? So you don't take advantage of that 40% crit regrowth thing. You would just put Reju on him. You put Cultivation. And here's what I think, guys. I generally think Nourish is actually going to make Germination viable. I could be wrong because, obviously Photosynthesis is insane. The amount of bloom healing that you get on a tank is nutty. But I generally think having another hot for the purpose of buffing Nourish would be insane, right? You get 2 rejuves. You could get the Cultivation hot. You could get Spring Blossoms hot. This is 4 hots. Life Bloom is obviously the 5th hot. Regrowth is a 6th hot. 6 hots. You could easily put up a Wild Growth for the 7th, right? I mean, all of that being tripled by Nourish. I mean, I feel like these heals are going to be the fattest heals that have ever existed. It's literally going to be like every cast is a Holy Word Serenity, or like a Lay on Hands. So, and I guess the real question is there even a case where that level of healing is required? I mean, honestly, like when has single target healing ever really been that relevant? So I really hope that it has a use, right? Maybe Nourish is its place is like PvP. I hate to say that, but obviously I think it'll be amazing in 5-man content. If you're nourishing a tank who has all the hots, he's not dying. He will never die. And I'm just trying to figure out like where or how you would use it as like in anywhere else besides that, and I'm just not sure. Maybe we need tank healers for raid. That's definitely a playstyle, but it's not looking like it's going to be viable in raid just because it's so niche. But we'll see. I really hope I can use it in raid. I think that playstyle would be so interesting. Um, okay, let's see. Everybody has Cyclone. Overgrowth is now a talent. So it used to be a PvP talent before. So instantly apply Life Bloom, Rejuve, Wild Growth, and Regrowth heal over time effects to an ally. Here's the problem with Overgrowth. After the conversion, it costs 6% mana. 6% of your mana, man. That's so much. And all it does is it puts up a Life Bloom, a Rejuve, a Wild Growth, and a Regrowth. So one wild Growth hot isn't really that great, right? Um, one Reju. I mean, I feel like if you added all the math up, I feel like this spell costs more than the combined cost of all the spells put together. assuming that you divide the cost of Wild Growth's mana cost by 1/6, right? Uh, I don't really know, man. It still takes a global like. I actually think it's dog shit. I'm gonna be honest. I think it was great for PvP because you get CC'd and you would have to push a button to try to save somebody, and so you'd hit this. I think if it said a separate spell that acts like Life Bloom, or it depends. Like, does this allow you to have two Life Blooms out? If so, then that's kind of insane. I think if they remove the cooldown on it, we could start talking about it, right? Because then at least it would give the ability for a druid to really burst HBS hard, and that would be sort of interesting. And then this would always be used with like innervates, right? Because then innervating a Resto druid, an overgrowth druid would be really interesting and a cool kind of moment, right? So, all right, moving on. Oh yes, let's talk about the Covenant abilities. Now that we have a kind of a grasp on the changes, let's talk about the Covenant abilities. So, Adaptive Swarm, command a swarm that heals 240%, so that's a large chunk. That's as much as Swiftmint, or deals damage over 12 seconds to a target. So you choose an enemy or an ally. Increase the effectiveness of your periodic effects on them by 20%. This is insane. This is 20% increased hot healing on the target. So if you put this on the tank, he's going to receive not only a large chunk of healing over time effect, but also an increased healing over time effects. And I have to assume that this counts as a hot for the purpose of mastery, which is insane. Also, it could probably proc this talent right here, photosynthesis, right? So more bloom heals, right? It's all about with Resto Druid, guys. It's all about combining things to take advantage of your mastery, taking advantage of procs and percentages, and really just synergizing everything together, in my opinion. Upon expiring, travels to a new target within 25 yards, alternating. That's the key between friend and foe up to 3 times. So this is my understanding, is that if you pick a healer or if you pick an ally, it'll go ally, enemy, ally. Or if you pick an enemy first, it'll go enemy, ally, enemy. So it's going to be out for 36 seconds, and its cooldown is only 25, and it's free. Free spell, guys. So you'll have basically at any point in time, like an adaptive swarm always healing if you think about it, right? Because you put one up, 12 seconds later it transfers to an enemy. Now it comes off cooldown. So then the old one transfers to an ally. You put a new one up on an ally. So, sorry, I had to sneeze. So it's kind of like you have an adaptive swarm always healing, and hopefully it prioritizes the tank every time. So then it's like your tank always has this. We'll see. But yeah, either way, I actually think it's really strong. I really do. It's just a nice free constant heal going out. Um, Convoke the spirits. So this is a really interesting, edgy choice. Call upon the Night Fae for an eruption of energy channeling for a rapid flurry of 16 druid spells over 4 seconds. So it prioritizes your spec's preferred spell. So for example, for Resto Druid, it will be Regrowth and Rejuve. But it's my understanding that it can still cast all of these options, right, on random targets. So there's a lot of questions we have to ask about this. So it's a 2-minute cooldown. You have to channel for 4 seconds, which is unfortunate, right? So 4 seconds is, it's like a miniature trank, right? Now here's a question: do we have to pay for these spells? Do these spells receive all the same benefits? Like, is it actually regrowth? Is it actually rejuve? Do these work on my mastery? Will it try to rejuve new targets, or what if it just blankets the same guy with the same rejuve? Does it try to regrowth new targets, or does it try to take advantage of that 40% crit buff and regrowth targets that already have regrowth? These are the questions I ask, and I think Convoke the Spirit might be a way better 5-man option, because at least then you could sort of control, and you'll know in the back of your head everyone's getting rejuve and everyone's getting regrowth, and then hopefully, so that would use 10 of your 16 spells. Hopefully it uses the next 6 spells to just cast regrowths on people that are missing health. That would be pretty insane. So, like, here's what I would do in a 5-man. I would put up Life Bloom on the tank. I would probably put out a Wild Growth. The second Wild Growth cast finishes, I hit Convoke the Spirits, right? Because now you know the tank has 2 hots, and you're about to put up 10 hots for free on Convoke the Spirits on top of the Wild Growth. And I'd assume you have your Mushroom down, so you have the Spring Blossom's hot, right? So Spring Blossom hot, Wild Growth hot. This is going to put Rejuve, which will also do Cultivation, right? So that's 5 hots. This is going to do Regrowth, so 6 hots. I mean, and then you could chase the Convoke the Spirits with like a Trank for just like unheard of AoE healing for a 5-man. That's how I would take advantage of that personally. Now in a raid, um, I don't know. I'd have to assume it's going to pick new targets each time. So 8 Rejuves out and 8 Regrowths out. This could be good. You could take advantage of this. Convoke the Spirits would be probably really good for a abundance photo build where remember how I mentioned how you were going to Rejuve and then double Regrowth a target. That's what I think you would take, especially if those spells are free. If they're not free, then I think this. Okay, yeah, let's talk about that. If you have to pay the mana cost for these spells, just move along. This is garbage. I assume it's free. So 16 free spells every 2 minutes is nothing to laugh at. That's insane. Um, yeah. So Convoke the Spirits is definitely looking like the winner for the Abundance photo build. There might be some kind of cheese build with the Adaptive Swarm with like Nourish and Germination, right? We'll see. Kindred Spirits, this is like a ghetto symbiosis. It's pretty confusing, but from what I gather, if you put this on, so first of all, it has a 1 minute cooldown. Oh, did they change this? Maybe they did change it actually a little bit. Let me read this. So now it costs mana. It has a 2.5 second cast. I think they changed this and they removed the cooldown on it. Interesting. Oh, maybe not. Every 1 minute you may empower your bond. Oh, okay. So this is the initial application of it. My bad. Okay, so you do this outside of combat, and then in combat, every 1 minute you could push the button to empower the bond. So kind of like empowering your aura, like Paladin, right? Granting you and an ally effect based on your partner's role, granting them an effect based on your role. So obviously we're always going to be healer, so um, they're going to get 50% of the healing that we do. And then if we use it on a tank, it will I guess it would give us we would redirect damage that they take. I don't know. See, this is so confusing. This is my understanding, right? If we use it on a tank, all healing we do gets replicated to them. If we use it on a DPS, we get primary stat. But I might have it ass backwards, honestly. Either way, you're gonna either take less damage or take more damage. You're gonna be able to take some of the damage the tank takes, so kind of like sacking the tank. You're either going to heal the tank for more or heal yourself for more, and you're gonna get, or you can choose primary stat. I guess is my understanding. I don't know. It's very confusing, and I have to see it in practice. But either way, I mean, I guess this isn't bad. 10 seconds active every 1 minute is okay. If you can heal the tank for 50% of all healing you do, that seems insane, right? Or even if you can sack them, that seems insane. It just seems like Resto Druid has an infinite number of resources for healing tanks, or saving tanks, or defenses for tanks. Like Resto Druid is the tank healer. Okay, this last one is pretty interesting. For 20 seconds, Druid spells you cast increase your damage, healing, and haste by 2% stacking. If you spend 1.5 seconds idle so you don't cast spells, the frenzy overcomes you, consuming 3% of your health per stack, stunning you for 1 second and ending. Um, so from what it looks like, as long as you keep the Ravenous Frenzy going, even if it ticks out, runs out of time, you won't take that damage and that stun, so that's very good. This is basically like Surrender to Madness in a way. It has a 3 minute cooldown, so you've really got to use this well. To me, this just screams tree form. I'm gonna be honest, because what are you gonna be doing in 20 seconds where you just want to have a lot of haste and a lot of healing, right? And what are you spamming out to where you can't just stop, right? Um, I mean, this Ravenous Frenzy would be okay maybe for like the Abundance build, because you just rejuve, regrowth, regrowth, rejuve, regrowth, regrowth, like real fast, right? But I feel like you would use too much mana maybe during it. But yeah, regardless, this is a cooldown. I mean, it's a decent cooldown, right? I just don't know how well it would be. Like this is going to be very mana intensive, right? This was a free spell. This looks like some free healing. This is free healing. This is just a buff for yourself. That's going that could, if you don't cast nonstop, it can fuck you, right? So, I like the idea of it. It does sound interesting. All right, guys. I think that pretty much does it for the druid changes for the most part. Um, let's go ahead and just take a look down here. Is this baseline? Ashland's, I think maybe Ashmane's Frenzy is baseline now. Bar skin rank 2, yeah, Let's see, Dash, Mangle, Moonfire. This is all like stuff everybody's gonna get as a druid. Oh, Rebirth's not 100% heal anymore. I guess it's 60%. Oh, never mind. So rank 2. So see that? So you'd, as a new character, you get Rebirth 1, but then eventually you get rank 2, which is kind of cool. I like that. Oh, they did change the mana cost of Regrowth. So Regrowth's got a mana cost increase. So now it's more like 3.6% mana cost, which is very pricey. So Regrowth is expensive. So if you're going to go Regrowth build, you basically have to reduce the mana cost with Abundance, in my opinion. But I totally think there's definitely a build out there for it. Shred, Sunfire, Trank. Yep. Trank got its healing increased by 10%. I don't know if we mentioned that already. Um, Heart of the Wild. Oh yeah, we would only be able to choose the Bounce, Feral, or Guardian. Yeah, oh yeah, Heart of the Wild is a new talent. So Heart of the Wild is in row 35. So you'll probably take Heart of the Wild and then Guardian Affinity, I would imagine. Um, because Balance Affinity just increases your damage. Feral just gives you damage. Yeah, but Guardian Affinity gives you 20% additional stamina when it's up, when you're in bear form, and you can use Iron for multiple times, and Fringe Regen has 2 charges, right? So at least you could Heart of the Wild combination with Guardian Affinity to really use these as a defensive and survive damage, right? And so I think that would just be like the way how you could survive a big hit. Because I'm trying to think about what the benefit of everything else is. I mean, I guess Feral Affinity is nice because it's movement speed. Balance is nice because it's ranged, right? But Guardian's just 6% reduced damage taken, and Heart of the Wild's effect, as far as like raid healing goes, on these two is dog shit. I definitely think you'd be taking Feral or Balance for 5 mans with Heart of the Wild. Unless you're forced to take these two, right, as utility. I mean, this is all utility stuff, so it doesn't really matter as much, right, guys? So let's talk about the overview of the class, right? And as far from like the changes is what we can determine. Here's what I think, guys. I think there's going to be 3 ways to play Druid. Um, I think and I'll kind of lay out the builds, and I actually like that there's 3 ways. So I think that there's going to be a Cenarian Ward, a Tree of Life, um, probably an Inner Peace or a Spring Blossoms, either one, with a Flourish build. So this is going to be like a lot of people probably go to, and with this they might use either Convoke the Spirit. They'll probably use Ravenous Frenzy with this, right? So this would be the Ravenous Frenzy tree form build, and this would be for like multiple cooldown usages, right? So you'd combine everything together for the biggest flourish tree form extravaganza with Ravenous Frenzy bonus healing scenario award moment ever, right? And so this would be the cooldown based healer. Okay, now if we want just raw throughput and like consistent healing, I think this would be the build. So you go Abundance, Cultivation, Spring Blossoms, Photo. And so this is a consistent healer. This person's going to do a lot of tank healing. This is typically the Mythic Plus build, but I think this is going to still be very viable in raid. And what you'll do is you'll babysit 4 to 5 targets at a time, right? So you'll make sure the tank always has Life Bloom, and then you'll go around and you'll make sure the tank has Rejuve and Regrowth always, and then you'll click people and you'll just give them Rejuve, Regrowth, and maybe another Regrowth if they still need health, and then you go to the next target, Rejuve, Regrowth them again if they need more healing. With this, you would want pretty high mastery stack. The previous build would want haste stack probably, or probably haste crit verse. This would want mastery haste verse. Because it doesn't want crit. Because look, abundance gives crit to regrowth, right? And if you're gonna regrowth a target already that has regrowth, remember you're getting that 40% as it is. So let's put up a theoretical scenario where you have an average of 6 rejuves out at any given point in time. And so what you're doing is you're going around and you're regrowthing targets with rejuves to min-max your mastery. So 6 stacks of abundance is 36% increased critical strike chance. Let's just say 5 stacks for 30%. Regrowth has a plus 40% if you already heal somebody with regrowth. So that's 70% crit on regrowth already. With some base crit, you could see yourself easily at like 85-90% crit. It'll basically always crit, which means you don't want any more crit, really. You don't need crit. You're already critting so much. Any more crit will have massive diminishing returns. So you would just want mastery and probably haste, I think, or verse, right? So main stack mastery, then the rest of your gear you just want haste first. Okay, and then the covenant ability that you would want with this, in my opinion, you could take advantage of where's it at? This one is probably a little bit closer. You could definitely take advantage of Ravenous Frenzy because it'll improve how many abundance stacks are up, and so you can really go around rejuving, regrowth, rejuve, regrowth, rejuve, regrowth, and just really pump a lot of healing out. Adaptive Swarm would be okay. Whenever you Adaptive Swarm somebody, that would add a lot of effectiveness to your rejuve, regrowth sort of hit, but I don't think it plays that well into it. I'm thinking Convoke the Spirit with this build. The reason for it being is it's going to put out 16 rejuves and regrowths, and that's what you're all about, right? With abundance. And then you would just go around and sort of like the second you use here's what you would do, right? So prior to convoking the spirit, guys, I think you'd put out some rejuves. Then you convoke the spirits, okay? Then you would innervate yourself, or not, honestly, or innervate somebody else really for the 50% reduction. And then I would just spam non-stop regrowths. And the mana reduction cost from all of those rejuves from Convoke the Spirits out and that huge stack of abundance, I would take advantage of all those rejuves that you have out and just hit them with regrowths. And if they have regrowths already, that's fine, right? As long as they need healing, then you can hit a target who has the rejuve cultivation regrowth, right? So yeah, Convoke the Spirit is looking like the winner if you're abundance build. Now let's talk about the theoretical third build, okay? This is the one I'm most excited about. This, I don't know if it can exist, but I would love to play. Sorry, this is the old talent tree. Let's just go ahead and get this out of here. This is what I'm thinking of would be a really cool third build. Fuck it, we'll just run it straight down the middle. Nourish, Cultivation, Spring Blossoms, Germination. The reason why we take Germination is I think every hot matters, right? And there's no extra hots in this row. And we have to take Nourish in this row. And then we get all the extra hots in all the other rows to min-max the number of mastery stacks that we get. If you go this build, you are a tank healer or a single target healer only. And you have quite a bit of setup because before you cast Nourish, you're going to want to do a lot of things. You're going to want to rejuve twice. You're going to want to regrowth. So that's 3 casts before you can even start nourishing, right? Or, well, most likely. You're also going to want to hopefully be healing people with Spring Blossoms and preferably probably Life Bloom, let's be honest. So this is a tank healer, just straight up. So with this build, this would only probably see healing in certain fights in the raid or 5-man. I would probably complement this with Necrolord, right? Because Adaptive Swarm seems like it'll be pretty strong on this, especially if Adaptive Swarm counts as another hot for the purpose of your mastery. If it doesn't, then we're kind of a little bit in a weird spot. If it doesn't, then honestly Convoke the Spirits might be good, right? Because here's the thing. This could probably put up 2 rejuves, right? If it allows 2 rejuves, then you can Convoke the Spirits, and then you could chase all those people who just got all those hots with your nourishes, right? I don't really see this being. I don't see Kindred Spirits really being good for this build. Ravenous Frenzy. Ravenous Frenzy could do it actually, because it would give you the haste that you would need to sort of apply all these spells beforehand, and it would also help your Nourish cast go a lot faster. Um, yeah, which would be nice, right? Um, eh, I don't know. It would also give you a cooldown, but 3 minute cooldown is pretty gnarly. So yeah, Adaptive Swarm if it counts as a Mastery Hot. If it doesn't, because most of your healing is going to be done from Nourish, which is not a heal over time effect. I don't think it's as effective. I would actually say Convoke the Spirit is the winner, and then every 2 minutes you would just nourish all those targets with all those hots, and hopefully would apply the Rejuve and Germination hot. I somehow doubt it though. They're kind of weird when it comes to those things. So, all right, guys, that's about basically all I can really talk about Druid right now. Some slight changes, but yeah, just really pushing it down that path of single target healing. And I'm kind of a fan. What I would actually like to see is more specialization coming out of the healers in general. I think it would be really cool to see like an all AoE healer come out, or a only single target hard cast healer, or like an only hard cast AoE healer. Like we have a chance here to make some interesting choices with healers and have some really niche things that they excel at. And it just seems like Resto is the only one who's really like leading the pack, pun intended, to like being any kind of specialty at all. So. Uh, if you need tank healing, guys, it's Resto Druid. So, all right, guys, that is my consensus. Thank you for watching. It's been Resto Druid for Shadowlands.